The sun was beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink as it dipped below the horizon. A gentle breeze rustled through the trees, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming flowers. The park, usually bustling with activity during the day, had grown quieter now, save for a few families packing up their picnic blankets and children chasing each other around before heading home. At the edge of the park, near a small fountain, sat Emily, a young girl whose life had been shaped by challenges most people couldn't imagine. Born with a condition that left her unable to walk, Emily relied on her wheelchair to navigate the world. Yet, despite her physical limitations, she radiated a quiet strength and optimism that often caught others off guard. Her blonde hair shimmered in the fading sunlight, framing a face marked not by bitterness but by resilience. Emily loved coming to this park. It offered her a sense of normalcy, a place where she could watch kids laugh, couples stroll hand in hand, and dogs playfully chase balls. She found solace in observing these simple joys, even if they sometimes reminded her of all the things she couldn't do herself. Today, however, something felt different. As the evening grew darker, the usual warmth of the park seemed to fade slightly, replaced by an unsettling stillness. Emily didn't notice it at first. She was too busy sketching. A bird perched on a nearby branch in her notebook. But then, the distant rumble of engines broke the tranquility, growing louder with each passing second. 3 motorcycles roared into view, pulling into the parking lot adjacent to the park. Their riders were clad in leather jackets adorned with patches, their boots heavy and scuffed from years of wear. Each one wore a helmet, though 2 of them quickly removed theirs, revealing unkempt beards and harsh expressions. They looked out of place among the serene surroundings, their presence jarring against the peaceful backdrop of the park. One of them, a burly man with a tattoo snaking up his neck, glanced around until his eyes landed on Emily. He nudged his companions, pointing in her direction. "Check this out," he said, his voice loud enough to carry across the empty space. His tone carried mockery, and Emily immediately stiffened, sensing trouble brewing. At first, the bikers simply loitered near their bikes, glancing over at Emily every so often while exchanging crude jokes amongst themselves. Then curiosity, or perhaps cruelty, drew them closer. They began walking toward her, their steps deliberate and menacing. Emily's heart started pounding in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. She tucked her sketchbook under her arm and tried to focus on anything but the approaching figures. When they finally stopped just a few feet away, one of them leaned down, invading her personal space. "What's wrong with you?" he sneered, his breath reeking of cigarettes. His words stung, but Emily refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing her cry. Instead, she stared straight ahead, pretending he wasn't there. Their taunts escalated quickly. Another biker circled behind her wheelchair, tapping the backrest mockingly. "Bet you can't run, huh?" he jeered, earning laughter from his friends. Passers-by who noticed the commotion either hurried away or pretended not to see, unwilling to get involved. Emily clenched her fists tightly, trying to hold back tears. She hated feeling powerless, hated being made fun of for something she had no control over. Her mind raced, searching for a way out, but she knew she couldn't move fast enough to escape. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, the third biker grabbed her bag from the side of her wheelchair and dumped its contents onto the ground. Papers fluttered everywhere, some landing in puddles left behind by earlier rain showers. Emily gasped and reached out desperately, trying to gather her belongings before they were ruined. The harassment continued unabated, drawing more attention from those nearby. Parents pulled their children closer, whispering warnings to stay away. A jogger paused briefly, looking conflicted before jogging off in the opposite direction. No one stepped forward to help. For 30 agonizing minutes, Emily endured the relentless torment, her spirit slowly crumbling under the weight of their cruelty. The bikers seemed to revel in her distress, feeding off her vulnerability like predators cornering their prey. Every insult, every laugh, cut deeper than the last. Emily wanted to scream, to fight back, but fear anchored her to the spot. All she could do was hope that someone, anyone, would come to her rescue. Unbeknownst to Emily, fate had already set events in motion. Across the street, Angela was returning from a long day at work. She carried a grocery bag filled with essentials, her thoughts drifting between dinner plans and the pile of laundry waiting for her at home. As she approached the park, she heard raised voices and laughter that sounded more cruel than joyful. Curious, she glanced over and saw the scene unfolding before her. 3 intimidating men surrounding a young girl in a wheelchair, laughing and shouting insults. Something inside Angela snapped. She might have been tired after a grueling shift, but she couldn't stand by and watch such injustice unfold. Setting her grocery bag down carefully, she crossed the street with purpose, her jaw tightening with resolve. Angela moved swiftly, her strides confident despite the tension building within her. She didn't know the girl, nor did she fully understand what had transpired, but none of that mattered. What mattered was stopping the bullying right then and there. As she drew closer, she noticed the fear etched on the girl's face, the tears streaming silently down her cheeks. It fueled Angela's determination further. Without hesitation, she stepped between the bullies and the girl, shielding her with her body. "Leave her alone," Angela commanded, her voice firm and commanding. Her sudden appearance startled the bikers, who turned to face her, their smirks faltering momentarily. One of them recovered quickly, stepping forward aggressively. "Back off, lady," he growled, attempting to intimidate her. But Angela didn't flinch. If anything, her stance became even more resolute. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The bikers exchanged uncertain glances, unsure how to react to this unexpected challenge. They weren't used to being confronted, especially not by someone who appeared so ordinary, yet exuded such fierce determination. Sensing their hesitation, Angela pressed on. "You think you're tough because you pick on someone who can't defend themselves?" she asked, her voice rising slightly. Her words struck a nerve, igniting murmurs of agreement from a few bystanders who had begun to gather. Encouraged by Angela's bravery, some stepped forward, forming a loose semicircle around the group. The dynamic shifted instantly. The bikers realized they were outnumbered and losing control of the situation. Grumbling curses under their breath, they reluctantly backed away, mounting their bikes and speeding off into the night. As the sound of their engines faded into the distance, Emily finally allowed herself to breathe again. Tears streamed down her face, mingling with relief and gratitude. Angela knelt beside her, offering a reassuring smile. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, her earlier fierceness replaced by genuine concern. Emily nodded weakly, managing a small thank you through trembling lips. Together they began picking up the scattered papers, joined by several strangers who had witnessed the ordeal. Someone handed Emily a tissue, while another retrieved her water bottle from the ground. Though shaken, Emily felt a wave of comfort wash over her, knowing she wasn't alone anymore. Word of Angela's heroic intervention spread quickly throughout the community. Neighbors who had seen the incident recounted it with admiration, praising her courage and selflessness. Local newspapers picked up the story, highlighting how one person's actions could inspire change. Emily and Angela, who had only met that fateful evening, formed an unlikely friendship. They bonded over shared experiences, discussing everything from their favorite books to their dreams for the future. Inspired by what had happened, they decided to take action. With support from local leaders, they launched a campaign aimed at raising awareness about bullying and encouraging bystanders to speak up. Their efforts sparked meaningful conversations, bringing the community closer together and fostering a culture of compassion and unity. What had started as a terrifying encounter ultimately transformed into a powerful testament to the impact of kindness and bravery. The tension in the air was palpable as Angela stood firmly between Emily and the 3 bikers, her presence like a shield against their cruelty. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to let fear take hold. She had seen enough injustice in her life to know when it was time to step up, and this moment demanded action. The bikers glared at her, clearly annoyed by her interference. One of them, the tallest and most aggressive of the group, stepped closer, his boots crunching loudly on the gravel. "You better mind your own business," he growled, his voice low and threatening. But Angela didn't back down, Instead, she straightened her posture, meeting his gaze with unwavering determination. "This is my business," she replied, sharply, her tone leaving no room for argument. The biker hesitated for a split second, caught off guard by her boldness. He wasn't used to people standing up to him, especially not someone who looked so ordinary. Angela's appearance, her simple dress, her grocery bag abandoned nearby, made her seem unremarkable at first glance. Yet there was something about her that commanded respect, an inner strength that radiated outward. Sensing weakness in his hesitation, Angela pressed on. "What kind of man picks on a disabled girl?" she asked, her voice rising slightly so others could hear. Her words struck a chord with the growing crowd of onlookers, many of whom had been too afraid to intervene earlier. Now, emboldened by Angela's courage, they began to edge closer, forming a loose circle around the scene. Someone muttered under their breath, "She's right," while another nodded in agreement. The bikers exchanged uneasy glances, realizing they were losing control of the situation. One of the bikers tried to salvage their dominance by lunging toward Angela, his arms outstretched as if to shove her aside. But Angela reacted faster than anyone expected. With surprising agility, she sidestepped his clumsy attempt and pushed him back, causing him to stumble awkwardly. The move shocked everyone, including Angela herself. She hadn't planned it. Instinct had simply taken over. The biker recovered, quickly, his face flushing red with embarrassment and anger. For a brief moment, it seemed like things might escalate further, but then, sensing the shift in momentum, another bystander, a middle-aged man holding a toddler's hand, stepped forward. "Leave her alone," he said firmly, his voice steady despite the tension. Others followed suit, creating a wall of support behind Angela. The bikers, now outnumbered and outmaneuvered, exchanged frustrated looks. They weren't prepared for such resistance. Grumbling curses under their breath, the bikers reluctantly mounted their motorcycles. The roar of their engines filled the air as they sped away, leaving behind a cloud of dust and the faint smell of burnt rubber. The crowd let out a collective sigh of relief, though the weight of what had just happened lingered heavily in the atmosphere. Emily, still seated in her wheelchair, wiped her tears with trembling hands. She felt overwhelmed, not just by the trauma of the past 30 minutes, but also by the sudden outpouring of kindness from strangers. Angela knelt beside her, offering a gentle smile. "It's okay now," she said softly, placing a reassuring hand on Emily's shoulder. "They're gone." Emily managed a weak nod, her voice barely above a whisper as she murmured, "Thank you." Angela helped Emily gather the scattered papers, which were now damp and crumpled from lying on the wet ground. Other bystanders pitched in as well, retrieving items that had blown farther away. A teenage boy handed Emily her water bottle, while a young mother offered her daughter's jacket to cover Emily's shoulders. These small acts of kindness brought warmth to an otherwise chilling experience. As the crowd dispersed, a few people lingered to ensure Emily was safe. One woman suggested calling the police to report the incident, and Emily agreed, though her hands still shook as she dialed the number. While waiting for the authorities to arrive, Angela stayed by Emily's side, offering quiet words of encouragement. "You're stronger than you think," Angela told her, her voice filled with sincerity. Emily looked up at her, gratitude shining in her tear-filled eyes. In the days that followed, news of the incident spread throughout the community. Local newspapers ran stories about Angela's bravery, describing how she had single-handedly confronted the bullies and inspired others to join her cause. Social media buzzed with praise for her actions, with many calling her a hero. Some shared personal stories of witnessing or experiencing bullying, expressing admiration for Angela's willingness to stand up against injustice. The story resonated deeply with people, sparking conversations about the importance of speaking out and supporting those in need. It also shed light on the often overlooked issue of bullying faced by individuals with disabilities, prompting calls for greater awareness and protection. Emily found herself at the center of these discussions, though she initially struggled with the attention. She had always preferred staying in the background, avoiding anything that might draw scrutiny to her condition. But Angela encouraged her to embrace the opportunity to make a difference. "Your voice matters," Angela told her, one evening as they sat together at a cafe near the park. "People need to hear your story." Slowly, Emily began opening up, sharing her experiences in interviews and community meetings. Her vulnerability touched hearts, inspiring others to reflect on their own biases and assumptions. Together, Emily and Angela became advocates for change, using their newfound platform to promote anti-bullying initiatives and foster inclusivity. Their partnership proved to be a powerful force. They organized workshops in schools, teaching students about empathy, respect, and the impact of their words and actions. They collaborated with local organizations to create safe spaces where victims of bullying could seek support and guidance. They even launched a campaign called Stand Up, Speak Out, encouraging bystanders to intervene when they witnessed harassment or discrimination. Posters featuring Emily and Angela's faces appeared all over town, accompanied by the slogan, "Courage starts with one." The message resonated far beyond their immediate community, reaching neighboring cities and sparking similar movements elsewhere. As months passed, Emily noticed a shift, not just in the world around her, but within herself as well. She had always viewed her disability as a limitation, something that set her apart from others in ways she couldn't control. But through her advocacy work, she discovered a newfound sense of purpose. She realized that her experiences gave her a unique perspective, one that could help bridge gaps and challenge stereotypes. Angela, too, underwent a transformation. Though she had always considered herself compassionate, the incident at the park deepened her understanding of what it meant to truly stand up for justice. She learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Their friendship flourished as they worked side by side, each drawing strength from the other. They spent countless hours brainstorming ideas, attending events, and supporting one another through moments of doubt. On weekends, they explored the park where their lives had intersected, enjoying its beauty and reflecting on how far they'd come. Emily often joked that she owed Angela her life, though Angela dismissed the notion with a laugh. "We saved each other," she would say, her eyes twinkling with warmth. And in many ways, it was true. Angela had given Emily a reason to believe in herself, while Emily had reminded Angela of the power of compassion and resilience. The ripple effects of their efforts continued to grow, touching lives in unexpected ways. Teachers reported a decline in bullying incidents at schools, crediting the workshops and campaigns for fostering a culture of accountability. Parents expressed gratitude for the resources provided, saying it helped them navigate difficult conversations with their children. Even businesses got involved, sponsoring events and donating funds to support the cause. What had started as a terrifying encounter between a disabled girl and her tormentors had evolved into a movement that united an entire community. People who had once turned a blind eye to injustice now felt empowered to speak up, knowing they weren't alone. Despite the progress, Emily and Angela knew there was still much work to be done. Bullying wasn't something that could be eradicated overnight. It required ongoing effort and vigilance. But they remained undeterred, fueled by the belief that every small victory mattered. Whether it was comforting a child who had been teased at school or lobbying for policy changes at City Hall, they approached each challenge with the same determination that had defined their journey from the beginning. Their bond served as a reminder that even in the darkest moments hope could emerge, and that sometimes all it took was one person stepping forward to ignite change. Years later, when Emily looked back on that fateful evening, she no longer saw it as a moment of weakness or victimhood. Instead, she viewed it as the catalyst for something greater, a turning point that had transformed pain into purpose. Angela, too, cherished the memory, not because of the danger they had faced, but because of the connection it had forged between two strangers who had become lifelong friends. Together, they proved that courage and kindness could transcend barriers, inspiring others to follow in their footsteps. And in doing so, they left an indelible mark on their community, one that would endure for generations to come. The aftermath of the incident at the park left a profound impact on both Emily and Angela, though neither realized it fully at first. For Emily, the days that followed were a blur of emotions: relief, gratitude, anger, and fear all tangled together, in a way that made it hard to focus on anything else. She replayed the scene over and over in her mind, the bikers' cruel taunts, the feeling of helplessness as they surrounded her, and then the moment Angela stepped in like a guardian angel. It was surreal, almost like something out of a movie. Yet every time she closed her eyes, she could still hear their laughter echoing in her ears. Sleep eluded her for nights, and when exhaustion finally claimed her, her dreams were haunted by shadows of leather jackets and revving engines. Angela, on the other hand, found herself reflecting deeply on what had happened. She had acted on instinct, driven by a gut-level reaction to protect someone who couldn't defend herself. But now, as the adrenaline faded and reality set in, she wondered if she'd done enough, or if she should have done more. She thought about how easily the situation could have escalated, how one wrong move might have put both her and Emily in greater danger. Still, she didn't regret stepping in. If anything, the experience reinforced her belief in standing up against injustice no matter the cost. What surprised her most, however, was the overwhelming support she received from the community. Strangers approached her at the grocery store to thank her. Neighbors invited her over for coffee just to talk, and local leaders praised her publicly during town hall meetings. Angela wasn't used to being in the spotlight, but she accepted the attention gracefully, using it as an opportunity to amplify Emily's voice. Emily and Angela began meeting regularly after the incident, bonding over shared experiences and mutual respect. At first, their conversations were tentative, filled with polite exchanges and careful questions. But as time passed, they grew closer, discovering common ground in their struggles and aspirations. Emily admired Angela's courage and unwavering moral compass, while Angela marveled at Emily's resilience and optimism, despite the challenges life had thrown her way. They often met at the same cafe near the park where everything had unfolded, finding comfort in its cozy atmosphere and familiar faces. Sitting across from each other, sipping hot chocolate or tea, they talked about everything, from their favorite books and movies to their hopes for the future. These moments became a source of strength for both of them, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, connection and friendship could flourish. Their growing bond inspired them to take action. One evening, as they sat brainstorming ideas, Emily voiced a thought that had been lingering in her mind. What if we could turn what happened into something positive? She asked hesitantly, looking at Angela for reassurance. Angela nodded encouragingly, urging her to continue. We've seen how people respond to stories like ours, Emily explained. Maybe we can use our voices to make a difference, to let others know they're not alone. Angela's eyes lit up with excitement. That's brilliant, she said, already envisioning possibilities. Together, they decided to launch a campaign aimed at raising awareness about bullying and empowering bystanders to intervene. They called it Stand Up, Speak Out, a name that captured the essence of what they wanted to achieve. The campaign quickly gained traction, thanks in part to the media coverage their story had received. Posters featuring Emily and Angela's faces appeared all over town, accompanied by the slogan, "Courage starts with one." The message resonated deeply with people, sparking conversations about the importance of speaking up and supporting those in need. Schools invited them to give talks, businesses offered sponsorships, and local organizations partnered with them to host events. Emily and Angela threw themselves into the work, attending workshops, organizing fundraisers, and speaking at conferences. Their efforts weren't without challenges. They faced skepticism from some who doubted their ability to create lasting change, but they persevered, buoyed by the knowledge that their mission mattered. One of the most rewarding aspects of their campaign was seeing its impact firsthand. Teachers reported a noticeable decline in bullying incidents at schools, crediting the workshops and resources provided by Emily and Angela. Students began approaching them after presentations, sharing their own stories and thanking them for giving them the tools to stand up for themselves and others. Parents expressed gratitude for the guidance the campaign offered, saying it helped them navigate difficult conversations with their children. Even adults who had once turned a blind eye to injustice confessed that the campaign had opened their eyes, inspiring them to take action in their own lives. Each success, no matter how small, fueled Emily and Angela's determination to keep pushing forward. As their advocacy work expanded, so did their personal growth. Emily discovered a newfound sense of purpose, realizing that her experiences gave her a unique perspective that could help others. She stopped viewing her disability as a limitation and instead embraced it as part of her identity, a testament to her strength and resilience. Speaking publicly about her journey was daunting at first, but with Angela's encouragement, she found her voice and learned to wield it with confidence. Angela, too, underwent a transformation. Though she had always considered herself compassionate, working alongside Emily deepened her understanding of empathy and allyship. She learned to listen more intently, to challenge her own biases, and to recognize the power of collective action. Their friendship blossomed into something extraordinary, rooted in trust, admiration, and shared values. They celebrated milestones, together, from the launch of their campaign to the anniversary of the day they met. They also leaned on each other during difficult times, offering comfort and advice when needed. On weekends, they returned to the park where their lives had intersected, walking or rolling along its winding paths and marveling at how far they'd come. Emily often joked that fate must have brought them together, though Angela dismissed the idea with a laugh. It wasn't fate, she would say. It was choice, the choice to care, to act, to believe in something bigger than ourselves. The ripple effects of their efforts extended far beyond their immediate community. News outlets picked up their story, shining a national spotlight on the issue of bullying and the importance of bystander intervention. Other towns and cities reached out, asking for guidance on launching similar campaigns. Emily and Angela traveled to speak at conferences and panel discussions, sharing their experiences and insights with audiences eager to learn. Along the way, they connected with individuals and organizations dedicated to creating safer, more inclusive environments. These collaborations strengthened their resolve, reminding them that they weren't fighting this battle alone. Despite the progress they made, Emily and Angela knew there was still much work to be done. Bullying wasn't something that could be eradicated overnight. It required ongoing effort and vigilance. But they remained undeterred, fueled by the belief that every small victory mattered. Whether it was comforting a child who had been teased at school, lobbying for policy changes at City Hall, or simply listening to someone share their pain, they approached each challenge with the same determination that had defined their journey from the beginning. Their bond served as a constant source of inspiration, a reminder that even in the darkest moments hope could emerge, and that sometimes, all it took was one person stepping forward to ignite change. Years later, when Emily looked back on that fateful evening, she no longer saw it as a moment of weakness or victimhood. Instead, she viewed it as the catalyst for something greater, a turning point that had transformed pain into purpose. Angela, too, cherished the memory, not because of the danger they had faced, but because of the connection it had forged between two strangers who had become lifelong friends. Together, they proved that courage and kindness could transcend barriers, inspiring others to follow in their footsteps. And in doing so, they left an indelible mark on their community, one that would endure for generations to come. Their legacy lived on in the countless lives they touched, from students who stood taller because of their teachings to parents who felt empowered to advocate for their children. The posters bearing their faces may have faded over time, but the lessons they imparted remained etched in the hearts of those who had heard their message. Emily and Angela had started with a single act of bravery, but that act had grown into a movement, a testament to the power of compassion, resilience, and unity. As they continued their work, they carried with them the unwavering belief that change was possible, one courageous step at a time. The journey of Emily and Angela was far from over, even as their campaign gained momentum and touched countless lives. Each day brought new challenges, new opportunities, and new lessons that deepened their understanding of the world around them. They knew they had made significant strides in raising awareness about bullying and encouraging bystander intervention, but they also understood that true change required patience, persistence, and an unwavering commitment to their cause. Their work wasn't just about addressing immediate problems. It It was about planting seeds of empathy, kindness, and courage that would grow over time and shape future generations. One of the most transformative experiences for both women came when they were invited to speak at a national conference on social justice. The event brought together activists, educators, policymakers, and community leaders from across the country, all united by a shared desire to create a better, more equitable society. For Emily, standing on stage in front of hundreds of people was daunting. She had never imagined herself as someone who could inspire others, let alone command attention in such a large setting. But as she began speaking, sharing her story with raw honesty and vulnerability, she noticed something remarkable happening. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on her as she recounted the pain of being bullied and the strength she found in standing up for herself. By the time she finished, the audience erupted into applause, many rising to their feet in admiration. It was a moment of validation, not just for Emily but for everyone who had ever felt unseen or unheard. Angela's presentation followed Emily's, and while her tone was more measured, her words carried equal weight. She spoke about the importance of allyship, emphasizing that standing up for others wasn't just an act of bravery, but a moral responsibility. "We often wait for someone else to step in," she said, her voice steady and clear. "But what if that person is you? What if your voice is the one that changes everything?" Her message resonated deeply with the audience, sparking conversations long after the session ended. Together, Emily and Angela demonstrated how two individuals from different walks of life could come together to make a difference, proving that unity was stronger than division. The conference marked a turning point for their campaign. Inspired by their speeches, attendees approached them with ideas for collaboration, eager to adapt their model to fit their own communities. Some wanted to focus on combating cyberbullying, which had become increasingly prevalent among younger generations. Others sought strategies for addressing workplace harassment or systemic discrimination. Emily and Angela welcomed these discussions, recognizing that bullying took many forms and affected people of all ages and backgrounds. They spent hours talking to delegates, exchanging insights, and brainstorming solutions. By the end of the IBASRCU conference, they had formed partnerships with organizations spanning multiple states, each committed to spreading the message of stand up, speak out. Back home, the energy from the conference fueled their efforts. Emily and Angela threw themselves into expanding their reach, leveraging technology to connect with audiences beyond their local community. They launched a podcast where they interviewed experts, survivors, and advocates, exploring topics ranging from mental health to restorative justice. They created video content showcasing real-life stories of resilience and courage, posting it online to reach viewers worldwide. Social media became another powerful tool in their arsenal, allowing them to engage directly with followers and amplify their message. Every post, every episode, every interaction served as a reminder that no one had to face adversity alone. Their growing visibility attracted attention not only from supporters, but also from critics. Some dismissed their campaign as naive or overly idealistic, arguing that bullying was an inevitable part of life. Others accused them of seeking fame or financial gain, despite the fact that they funded much of their work out of pocket. At first, the negativity stung, especially for Emily, who still struggled with self-doubt. But Angela reminded her that criticism was inevitable whenever someone dared to challenge the status quo. "They're uncomfortable because we're forcing them to confront truths they'd rather ignore," Angela explained. "That means we're doing something right." Instead of letting the negativity discourage them, they used it as motivation, to push harder, to prove that their mission was worth fighting for. Despite the challenges, there were moments of pure joy that reminded them why they had started this journey in the first place. One such moment came during a school visit, when a shy fifth grader named Mia approached Emily after a presentation. Clutching a crumpled piece of paper, she hesitated before handing it to Emily. "I wrote this for you," she whispered, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. The note read, "Thank you for showing me I'm not alone. You're my hero." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she hugged Mia tightly, overwhelmed by the realization that her story had given someone else hope. Later, Angela joked that They should frame the note and hang it in their office, a testament to the impact they were making. As their work continued, Emily and Angela began to see subtle shifts in the way people interacted with one another. Conversations about bullying became less taboo, replaced by open dialogues about empathy and accountability. Teachers reported that students were intervening more often when they witnessed harassment, stepping in to support peers who might otherwise have suffered in silence. Parents grew more proactive, teaching their children the value of kindness and respect from an early age. Even workplaces adopted policies aimed at fostering inclusive environments, inspired by the principles Emily and Angela promoted. These changes weren't dramatic or instantaneous, but they were meaningful, a testament to the power of small, consistent actions. Their friendship remained the cornerstone of their success, providing stability amid the chaos of their busy schedules. They celebrated victories together, whether big or small, and leaned on each other during tough times. When Emily doubted her ability to keep going, Angela reminded her of how far they'd come. And when Angela felt overwhelmed by the weight of responsibility, Emily offered gentle encouragement, reminding her of the lives they were touching. They laughed together, cried together, and dreamed together, always finding strength in their shared purpose. Their bond became a beacon of hope for others, proof that genuine connections could transcend differences and create something beautiful. Over time, Emily and Angela expanded their focus to include broader issues related to disability, rights, and racial equality. They recognized that bullying often intersected with larger systems of oppression, and addressing one required tackling the other. Through workshops and panel discussions, they highlighted the unique challenges faced by marginalized groups, advocating for policies that promoted inclusivity and fairness. They collaborated with disability advocates to ensure public spaces were accessible, worked with racial justice organizations to combat stereotypes, and partnered with LGBTQ+ groups to address homophobia and transphobia. Their message evolved, becoming more intersectional and inclusive, yet its core remained unchanged. Everyone deserved to be treated with dignity and respect. The years passed quickly, filled with milestones and memories that solidified their legacy. Emily graduated from college, earning a degree in social work so she could continue helping others professionally. Angela transitioned from her job at the grocery store to pursue a career in nonprofit leadership, using her skills to manage and expand their campaign. Together, they published a book detailing their journey, offering practical advice and heartfelt reflections for anyone looking to make a difference. The book became a bestseller, further amplifying their message and inspiring readers around the globe. Despite their individual accomplishments, they always credited their success to the community that had supported them along the way. Looking back, Emily and Angela marveled at how much had changed since that fateful evening at the park. What had begun as a terrifying encounter had blossomed into a movement that transcended boundaries and united people from all walks of life. They had faced fear, doubt, and opposition. Yet through it all, they had remained steadfast in their belief that kindness and courage could transform the world. Their story served as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, light could emerge, and that sometimes, all it took was one person standing up to spark a chain reaction of hope and healing. Today, the park where their paths first crossed stands as a symbol of resilience and renewal. A plaque commemorates the incident, honoring Emily and Angela's bravery and the movement they inspired. Children play freely on its grounds, families gather for picnics, and strangers strike up conversations. Without hesitation, the atmosphere is warm and welcoming, a stark contrast to the tension that once lingered there. Emily and Angela visit often, sitting on a bench near the fountain and watching as life unfolds around them. They know their work isn't done, but they take comfort in knowing they've planted seeds that will continue to grow long after they're gone. For them, that's enough. The years rolled on, and Emily and Angela's campaign continued to evolve, growing in scope and impact. What had started as a local initiative aimed at addressing bullying had transformed into a nationwide movement that tackled broader issues of inequality and injustice. Their message resonated with people from all walks of life, transcending age, race, gender, and socioeconomic status. The phrase, "Stand up, speak out," became more than just a slogan. It was a call to action, a mantra for those who believed in the power of collective courage to create change. Yet, despite their success, Emily and Angela remained grounded, never losing sight of the personal stories that fueled their mission. One of the most significant developments came when they partnered with a major tech company to develop an app designed to combat cyberbullying. In today's digital age, harassment wasn't confined to playgrounds or streets. It followed victims into their homes, lurking behind screens and keyboards. The app, named Courage Connect, allowed users to report abusive behavior anonymously while providing resources for mental health support and conflict resolution. It also included features like AI-driven moderation tools to flag harmful content and educational modules to teach users about online etiquette and empathy. When the app launched, it quickly gained traction, earning praise from educators, parents, and advocates alike. For Emily and Angela, it was a proud moment, not only because of the technology itself, but because it represented their ability to adapt and innovate in response to changing needs. Their advocacy work took them to places they never imagined they'd go. They traveled across the country, visiting schools, community centers, and corporate offices to share their story and spread their message. Each stop brought new faces, new challenges, and new opportunities to make a difference. In rural towns, where resources were scarce, they worked with local leaders to establish mentorship programs for at-risk youth. In urban areas grappling with systemic inequities, they collaborated with grassroots organizations to address root causes of violence and discrimination. Everywhere they went, they listened intently, learning from the communities they served, and tailoring their approach to meet specific needs. This willingness to listen and adapt earned them trust and respect, reinforcing their belief that meaningful change began with understanding. Despite their achievements, Emily and Angela faced moments of doubt and exhaustion. The weight of their responsibilities sometimes felt overwhelming, especially when progress seemed slow or setbacks occurred. There were days when Emily questioned whether she was making a real difference, wondering if her efforts were enough to counteract the pervasive negativity in the world. Angela, too, struggled with burnout, juggling the demands of managing their campaign with her personal life. But through it all, they relied on each other for strength and perspective. Late-night conversations over cups of tea became a ritual, a chance to vent frustrations, celebrate small victories, and remind themselves why they had started this journey in the first place. Their friendship deepened with time, becoming a source of unwavering support and inspiration. They celebrated milestones together, birthdays, anniversaries, and even holidays, and leaned on each other during difficult times. When Emily faced health challenges related to her condition, Angela was there, accompanying her to doctor appointments and helping her navigate insurance paperwork. When Angela dealt with family struggles, Emily offered a listening ear and words of encouragement. Their bond was unshakable, built on mutual respect, admiration, and a shared commitment to their cause. To outsiders, they seemed like sisters. Their connection so natural and effortless that it inspired others to seek similar relationships in their own lives. As their influence grew, so did the recognition they received. Awards poured in from various organizations, honoring their contributions to social justice and community empowerment. Speeches at prestigious events became routine, and interviews with national media outlets highlighted their work. Yet, neither Emily nor Angela let the accolades define them. They accepted the honors humbly, always redirecting attention to the people whose stories inspired their mission. "We're just two ordinary people who decided to take a stand," Angela often said during interviews. "The real heroes are the ones who've overcome unimaginable hardships and still choose to believe in goodness." Their humility endeared them to many, including young activists eager to follow in their footsteps. One such individual was Marcus, a high school senior who reached out to Emily and Angela after hearing their story. He had been bullied relentlessly throughout his childhood, enduring taunts about his weight and appearance. For years, he internalized the pain, believing he deserved it. But after attending one of their workshops, he realized he wasn't alone, and that he had the power to rewrite his narrative. With their guidance, Marcus founded a student-led initiative called Rise Together, which focused on fostering inclusivity and celebrating diversity within his school. When he graduated, he credited Emily and Angela with giving him the courage to pursue his dreams. Stories like Marcus's reminded them that their work was far from over, and that every life they touched carried the potential to spark further change. The ripple effects of their efforts extended beyond individuals, influencing institutions and policies at higher levels. Lawmakers began consulting Emily and Angela when drafting legislation aimed at protecting vulnerable populations. Schools adopted anti-bullying curriculums based on their teachings, incorporating lessons on empathy, allyship, and conflict resolution into daily instruction. Corporations implemented training programs to promote workplace inclusivity, drawing inspiration from the principles they championed. Even entertainment industries took notice, producing films and documentaries that shed light on issues of bullying and discrimination. These shifts weren't immediate or easy, but they reflected a cultural transformation, one that Emily and Angela had helped catalyze. Despite their accomplishments, Emily and Angela knew that true equality required ongoing vigilance. They understood that systemic injustices couldn't be dismantled overnight, nor could deeply ingrained biases be erased through speeches or workshops alone. Change demanded sustained effort, uncomfortable conversations, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. So they kept pushing forward, tackling new challenges as they arose. They expanded their focus to include environmental justice, recognizing the intersection between climate change and marginalized communities. They advocated for prison reform, highlighting how cycles of oppression perpetuated violence and hardship. And they continued to amplify voices often overlooked by mainstream narratives, ensuring that no one was left behind in the fight for a better world. Their work also brought unexpected joys, moments of pure connection that reaffirmed their purpose. During a visit to a juvenile detention center, Emily met a teenager named Jamal who had been incarcerated for theft. At first, Jamal was guarded, reluctant to engage with the group. But as Emily shared her story, something shifted. By the end of the session, Jamal approached her, tears streaming down his face. "I didn't think anyone would care about me," he confessed, "but you made me feel like I matter." That exchange stayed with Emily long after the visit ended, reminding her of the profound impact kindness could have, even in the darkest corners of society. Angela, too, experienced moments that reaffirmed her faith in humanity. During a fundraising gala, she met an elderly woman named Ruth, who had traveled hours to attend the event. Ruth explained that she had been bullied as a child for being biracial, a trauma she carried with her well into adulthood. After reading about Emily and Angela's campaign, she found solace in their message and decided to contribute what little savings she had to support their work. "You're giving people like me hope," Ruth told Angela, clutching her hand tightly. Such encounters reminded Angela of the importance of representation and visibility, of showing people that they weren't alone in their struggles. Through it all, Emily and Angela remained steadfast in their belief that everyone had the capacity to make a difference. Whether it was a teacher intervening in a classroom dispute, a coworker standing up against discriminatory remarks, or a stranger offering a kind word to someone in need, they emphasized that small acts of courage could spark monumental change. They encouraged people to start where they were, using whatever resources they had to create positive impact. "Change doesn't require perfection," Angela often said. "It requires action." Years later, as they sat together on the same bench near the park where their paths first crossed, Emily and Angela reflected on how far they'd come. The once quiet neighborhood had transformed into a vibrant hub of activity, its streets lined with murals celebrating diversity and unity. Children played freely, their laughter echoing through the air, while families gathered for picnics beneath the shade of towering trees. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, a testament to the resilience and compassion of the community they had helped build. As they watched the scene unfold before them, Emily turned to Angela with a smile. "Do you remember that day?" she asked softly. Angela nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. "Every single day," she replied, and in that moment they both knew their work was worth every challenge, every As the years stretched on, Emily and Angela found themselves reflecting more deeply on the legacy they were building, not just for themselves, but for future generations. They had always known their work was bigger than them, yet it wasn't, until they started seeing tangible results that the full weight of their impact truly sank in. The park where their journey began now stood as a symbol of hope and resilience, its transformation mirroring the changes they had sparked within their community. What had once been a quiet, unassuming space had become a vibrant hub of connection and inclusivity, drawing people from all walks of life. It was a living testament to the power of courage and kindness, a reminder that even the smallest actions could ripple outward and reshape the world. One of the most profound realizations they came to is how interconnected their lives were with the stories of those they touched. Every person they met along the way carried their own struggles and triumphs, each narrative weaving into the larger tapestry of their movement. There was Maria, a single mother who had attended one of their workshops after enduring years of workplace harassment. Inspired by their message, she filed a complaint against her employer, sparking an investigation that led to systemic reforms within her company. Then there was Liam, a young boy who had been bullied for his stutter. After hearing Emily speak about finding strength in vulnerability, he joined a local theater group, discovering a passion for acting that gave him confidence and purpose. These stories weren't just anecdotes. They were proof that their efforts were creating lasting change. Their campaign also brought unexpected opportunities for growth both personally and professionally. Emily pursued further education, earning a master's degree in social psychology so she could better understand the root causes of bullying and discrimination. Her research focused on the psychological effects of marginalization, offering insights that informed their advocacy strategies. Meanwhile, Angela expanded her leadership skills, taking on roles in policy-making circles and advising government bodies on issues related to equity and inclusion. Together, they co-authored a second book, this time delving into the science behind empathy and the importance of fostering compassionate communities. The book became required reading in universities and training programs, cementing their status as thought leaders in the field. Despite their growing influence, Emily and Angela never lost sight of the human element at the heart of their mission. They made it a point to stay grounded, regularly returning to the neighborhoods and schools where their journey had begun. They listened to feedback, adapted their approaches, and ensured their message remained accessible to everyone, regardless of background or circumstance. This commitment to authenticity earned them trust and loyalty, qualities that set their movement apart from others. People didn't follow Emily and Angela because they were celebrities or experts. They followed them because they genuinely cared, because they showed up when it mattered most, and because they believed in the inherent goodness of humanity. Their friendship continued to be the bedrock of their success, providing stability amid the chaos of their busy lives. They celebrated milestones together, birthdays, anniversaries, and even holidays, and leaned on each other during difficult times. When Emily faced health challenges related to her condition, Angela was there, accompanying her to doctor appointments and helping her navigate insurance paperwork. When Angela dealt with family struggles, Emily offered a listening ear and words of encouragement. Their bond was unshakable, built on mutual respect, admiration, and a shared commitment to their cause. To outsiders, they seemed like sisters, their connection so natural and effortless that it inspired others to seek similar relationships in their own lives. As their work gained international recognition, Emily and Amanda began traveling abroad, sharing their message with global audiences. They visited countries grappling with systemic oppression, working alongside local activists to address issues ranging from child labor to gender-based violence. In India, they collaborated with grassroots organizations to empower girls denied access to education. In South Africa, they partnered with anti-apartheid advocates to promote racial reconciliation. Everywhere they went, they emphasized the universality of their message. No matter where you came from or what challenges you faced, you had the power to stand up and speak out. Their presence inspired countless individuals to take action in their own communities, creating a domino effect of positive change. Back home, their efforts continued to bear fruit. Schools reported significant declines in bullying incidents, crediting their workshops and resources for fostering cultures of empathy and accountability. Workplaces implemented policies aimed at promoting inclusivity, inspired by the principles Emily and Angela championed. Even law enforcement agencies adopted training programs based on their teachings, focusing on de-escalation techniques and community engagement. These shifts weren't immediate or easy, but they reflected a cultural transformation, one that Emily and Angela had helped catalyze. Their message had transcended borders, industries, and demographics, proving that courage and compassion were universal languages. Yet, despite their achievements, Emily and Angela remained humble, always redirecting attention to the people whose stories inspired their mission. "We're just two ordinary people who decided to take a stand," Angela often said during interviews. "The real heroes are the ones who've overcome unimaginable hardships and still choose to believe in goodness." This humility endeared them to many, including young activists eager to follow in their footsteps. One such individual was Aisha, a college student who reached out to Emily and Angela after hearing their story. She had grown up in a refugee camp, enduring trauma and displacement before resettling in the United States. Inspired by their message, she founded a youth-led organization aimed at bridging cultural divides through storytelling and dialogue. When she graduated, she credited Emily and Angela with giving her the courage to pursue her dreams. Stories like Aisha's reminded them that their work was far from over, and that every life they touched carried the potential to spark further change. Their legacy extended beyond individuals, influencing institutions and policies at higher levels. Lawmakers began consulting Emily and Angela when drafting legislation aimed at protecting vulnerable populations. Schools adopted anti-bullying curriculums based on their teachings, incorporating lessons on empathy, allyship, and conflict resolution into daily instruction. Corporations implemented training programs to promote workplace inclusivity, drawing inspiration from the principles they championed. Even entertainment industries took notice, producing films and documentaries that shed light on issues of bullying and discrimination. These shifts weren't immediate or easy, but they reflected a cultural transformation, one that Emily and Angela had helped catalyze. Years later, as they sat together on the same bench near the park where their paths first crossed, Emily and Angela reflected on how far they'd come. The once quiet neighborhood had transformed into a vibrant hub of activity, its streets lined with murals celebrating diversity and unity. Children played freely, their laughter echoing through the air, while families gathered for picnics beneath the shade of towering trees. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, a testament to the resilience and compassion of the community they had helped build. As they watched the scene unfold before them, Emily turned to Angela with a smile. "Do you remember that day?" she asked softly. Angela nodded, her eyes glistening with emotion. "Every single day," she replied. And in that moment, they both knew their work was worth every challenge, every sacrifice, and every ounce of love they had poured into it. Though they were older, now their passion for justice burned as brightly as ever. They understood that true equality required ongoing vigilance, uncomfortable conversations, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. So they kept pushing forward, tackling new challenges as they arose. They expanded their focus to include environmental justice, recognizing the intersection between climate change and marginalized communities. They advocated for prison reform, highlighting how cycles of oppression perpetuated violence and hardship. And they continued to amplify voices often overlooked by mainstream narratives, ensuring that no one was left behind in the fight for a better world. Through it all, Emily and Angela remained steadfast in their belief that everyone had the capacity to make a difference. Whether it was a teacher intervening in a classroom dispute, a coworker standing up against discriminatory remarks, or a stranger offering a kind word to someone in need, they emphasized that small acts of courage could spark monumental change. They encouraged people to start where they were, using whatever resources they had to create positive impact. "Change doesn't require perfection," Angela often said. "It requires action." In the end, Emily and Angela's story was not just about fighting against injustice. It was about building something beautiful in its place. It was about creating spaces where people felt seen, heard, and valued. It was about reminding everyone, no matter their circumstances, that they mattered. And it was about proving that even in the darkest moments hope could emerge or be